What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great, marvelous, beautiful, wonderful day. I hope that all your dreams are coming true. I got banned from YouTube for 2 weeks. Haha, it seems that they don't like it when you do a live stream with the NFL playing in the background. Even if you try to hide it with some Christmas music and some outside views, they don't like it. They just don't like it. So, I guess we're not going to try that anymore. Strike one. So, what we're doing, we're getting it all ready. You know, it's that time of the night. It's time to chill out. It's time to go ready for bed. It's late. It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. How's everybody doing? No, come on, it's that time of the evening. Roll one, smoke one. When you live like this, you're supposed to party. Roll one, smoke one. I say we all just having fun. Alright. How's the volume? Is the volume good? Can y'all hear me? OBS doesn't have a pause button, at least not on my version. Probably should see if there's an updated version. I should probably go ahead and pay for OBS Studio. I probably will as soon as we get monetized. It's been a... So what's y'all's favorite song? I like music. Music is, I don't know, just, it can bring a mood, you know? You want to go fast, you bring up some heavy metal. You want to go slow, you bring up some John Legend. Any John Legend fans out there? What's up? What's up? Say what's up. Come on, I know you are. It's okay. It's okay, you can admit it. It ain't gonna hurt nothing. Alright, so impossible places in nature that really exist. So everybody needs to go check out Infinity. Give it that thumbs up. Let's get it.
In 1957, a newspaper columnist in Rio de Janeiro received a strange letter from an eyewitness who claimed to have seen a flying disc explode above Ubatuba Beach in Sao Paulo, Brazil. After that, several metal fragments fell on the beach. It would seem that you can write anything. However, the eyewitnesses attached to the letter fragments of what supposedly flew off the disc. The columnist didn't know what to do with the samples and such a message, so he just printed the letter in the newspaper and put the fragments aside. The story was forgotten. Suddenly, the columnist was contacted by Olachko Vantes, a doctor and representative of the Air Phenomena Research Organization, who read the letter. He wanted to see the fragments in person and came to see the columnist. Vantes quickly realized that one of the fragments was special. Cracks and fractures on it indicated that it had been forcefully ripped off a large object. Vantes took the fragment away to analyze it more accurately. He found that the fragment was almost 100% pure magnesium. Due to the lack of material, it was difficult to come to other conclusions. However, after the analysis were completed, a theory emerged that the magnesium fragment was of alien origin. It's likely that the flying disc was not some kind of probe. At the same time, a full-fledged vehicle of extraterrestrial creatures crashed over the ocean. Unfortunately, it's no longer possible to know for sure, but the discovery once again gives hope that we are not the only intelligent beings in the universe.
Okay, there has been a lot of talk about UFOs lately in the news. Do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe in aliens? Are we alone? Or are they here? I don't know. What do you think? Are we being invaded by aliens, or is it Project Bluebeam? You don't know what Project Bluebeam is? Go check my other video out.
And now, you're about to see a jaw-dropping photo. Scientists in Alabama have discovered an unidentified object believed to be of organic origin. Some think it's a cocoon of an unknown creature that experts have never encountered before. Others speculate it's the organic remains of alien beings intending to spread their spores on Earth, leave offspring, and potentially wipe out humanity in the future. Let's cross our fingers and hope the first group of scientists is right.
It seems that aliens had some special outbreak of activity in the 50s because the next artifact was found a year before the incident on the beach. In November 1956, Stig Ekberg and Harry Soberg were driving a car on the island of Vado, Sweden, when they noticed a bright object ahead. From their accounts, it looked like a flattened sphere, about 25 feet wide and 10 feet high. Suddenly, the object headed straight towards them, and their car's engine mysteriously hissed and stalled. The object then hovered right beside the road and began to shine as brightly as if it had been the sun. At the same time, there was an odor in the air, similar to ozone and smoldering insulation material. The strange paranormal pattern lasted for 10 minutes. Then the object flew away and disappeared, and the car started again. Stig and Harry went to the spot with the bright object above and found that the grass had been leveled and burnt. The whole story could have been written off as fiction. However, Stig and Harry also found something tangible. In that area, they discovered a shiny object that turned out to be a three-sided piece of metal the size of a matchbox. Its weight was quite decent. The friends took it to the scientists for analysis, and they came to the conclusion that such an object was impossible to fake. It means that Stig and Harry didn't make the whole story up. Moreover, the scientists said that the artifact was an artificially created object and not some naturally occurring stone. It's unclear what happened to the object after that. Apparently, we have another alien artifact in our piggy bank that proves the existence of aliens.
Alright, here we go.
Something similar.
Back with the aliens, guys. Are the aliens?
Similar happened to people from the United States in the 1980s. In 1985, Bob White was traveling with a friend from Denver to Las Vegas. At some point during the night, they saw a mysterious glow on the horizon. The light gradually grew larger and larger. The bright object only added to the glow. Suddenly, the object blinded the friends for a moment, turning night into day. Then it soared into the air and disappeared. You'd agree it sounds a bit like the story of those Swedes. Who knows? Maybe it was the same object. Besides, there was also something left behind from this unexplained encounter. Bob and his friend searched the spot where the bright light was and found a glowing object about 8 inches long. Bob took it away with him, and for several years he hesitated whether it was worth giving it for study. But in 1996, a small sample of the object was examined. 2 laboratories found nothing extraterrestrial or mysterious about it, whereas a third one concluded that the find was not of terrestrial origin. Scientists assumed that it was part of a meteorite. Then it's not clear where such a bright light came from. Meteorites, of course, can glow when falling, but not so bright and long. Another version said that Bob and his friend had seen the fall of a burning artificial satellite. Meanwhile, a third one concluded that they had witnessed a mysterious natural phenomenon, and the object was not connected with it at all. Bob himself claimed that the object was of alien origin and that he and his friend had seen a real UFO or even an alien invasion that night. Unfortunately, people didn't manage to find common grounds, so the discovery of Bob White still remains one of the most unexplained and mysterious artifacts on the planet. The aliens are not the end of the story. There are other mysterious finds that still raise a lot of questions. And some of them are particularly interesting because they're mummies. One of the strangest and most mysterious mummies was found in 1932 in the San Pedro Mountains, USA. During gold mining, workers blasted a rock with a gold-bearing vein. Instead of gold, they came across a seated mummy of a tiny man. Its height did not exceed 8 inches, and in full length, it reached a maximum of 16 inches. The mummy's arms were crossed. Its head was deformed and covered with a strange substance. The mummy had huge and bulging eyes. Needless to say, such an unusual find was researched by scientists. They concluded that its age was at least 250 years old. They also decided to check whether they were not deceived by gold diggers. The mummy was checked with the help of X-rays and found that it was real. It had a full skeleton and some of the bones were broken. Everyone who had previously thought that the workers had found some kind of doll or toy in the rock didn't know what to say. After all, it turns out it wasn't a fake. But if it's not a fake, who could it even have been in life? I mean, the mummy only remotely resembles a human being. All sorts of theories could have been put forward. Someone suggested that it's the mummy of an infant with some mutations. Others thought that the workers found a deformed dwarf. However, even if all this is so, it's not clear what the mummy was doing in the rock. It was not without an alien version. But there was another one. According to it, the workers stumbled upon a real dwarf. We often talk about giants, that they really existed and literally reigned on Earth, that their incredible remains are found to this day, and so on. But dwarfs are far less often talked about. And what if, along with the giants, these tiny creatures walked on the Earth? As far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't rule out such an option. In any case, it's no longer possible to find out for sure on this particular mummy. In the 80s, the mysterious finding was secretly stolen from the museum in which it was stored. Externally, the next discovery looks like some very strange.
So I'm curious. We have midgets. We have dwarfs. We have dwarfs. Can we have fairies? Can that be a real thing? Can a fairy be a real thing? I mean, if a dwarf was to have a baby, I would imagine it would be that size. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Why is that not working? For some reason,
strange and bad rock. On the whole, it's not far from the truth. At the same time, alternative historians believe that it's one of the most important artifacts that have been found in the last decades. The only downside to it is the insufficient amount of material, as there's literally only one picture preserved. The artifact was found in Indonesia, in one of the caves. The geologist who stumbled upon the stone believes that he discovered the oldest map of the star path. Theorists supported him in this. In their opinion, the inscribed signs on the stone resemble the information that NASA employees placed on the plate of the probe Pioneer 10 launched into space in 1972. Like the plaque, the stone depicts a man and a woman holding hands, as well as the sun, a series of stars, and signs in the form of dots and arrows. The discovery is several 100,000 years old. Conspiracy theorists explain it by the fact that the aliens managed to get the message that was in the probe, coded the map, and visited Earth. At the same time, for some reason, they missed a couple of 100,000 years, got into the past, and stuck there. In any case, the truth still hasn't been found out. Washington Flap. Why none of the alien encounters happened to the government directly? They would immediately send a string of missiles, some fighter jets, and catch the green humanoids. But in fact, there was already such a case in history, and the higher-ups couldn't do anything about it. On July 19, 1952, at about 11 to 12 p.m., many unidentified flying objects were seen near the Washington airport. No airplanes were expected that day, so the military immediately pricked up their ears.
Unidentified flying objects are picked up on radar.
The chief air traffic controller said they were uninvited guests, probably someone's missiles. The decision was made to shoot them down. But as soon as people took to the sky, they immediately realized that this task was beyond them. UFOs were flying at incredible speed of thousands of kilometers per hour. Only rockets could do that. But even then, they were superior to them in maneuverability. Anyway, it wasn't possible to catch up with them. They constantly flew in and hovered over the airport or the main building of the city. But as soon as people moved out behind them, they disappeared from sight and returned as soon as the situation calmed down. This performance lasted for over a week. Not only the government, but ordinary people from all over the city saw this horror and didn't know what to do about it. The Washington Flap has been called the most well-documented UFO sighting. There's a bunch of photos and videos of the incident for which no one can give a rational explanation to this day. George Adamski. People who are into aliens and other mystical stories should definitely have known this name. Well, or at least have heard of it. He was a Polish immigrant living in the United States who claimed in the 1950s to have flown into space with the help of an unidentified flying object. Quite little is known about this man. He was fascinated with astronomy and Eastern philosophy all his childhood and also old age. He even wrote books about contact with the inhabitants of Venus, in whose flying machine he visited outer space. But I'll talk about it later. The whole interesting thing started when George Adamski, in 1952, on November 20th, he was on a picnic with friends when suddenly he spotted a cigar-shaped object. Everyone at the time assumed it was a U.S. fighter plane, everyone except Adamski. And his assumption turned out to be correct. If you believe the story of the man, as well as all his friends, another silvery and disc-shaped object suddenly separated from this flying object and landed on the ground near the group of witnesses. Of course, people couldn't resist and immediately went after the flying object. Coming closer to it, they examined the shape of the saucer. It was radically symmetrical, had the appearance of a flat dome, on top of which there was a large hemisphere with a number of portholes on it. Despite the fact that everyone's hands were shaking violently at that moment, they still took a picture. But that wasn't enough for them. They followed the saucer, they wanted to get inside it, but they were stopped by a humanoid monster that was not from this planet. George described the giant as a swarthy, handsome humanoid with shoulder-length blonde hair and slanted gray-green eyes. There was no hair on his face, and he was dressed in a shiny, foil-like suit with no seams. Adamski's friends, who observed through binoculars, later confirmed in writing that he and the creature were gesticulating vigorously. When journalists asked George a question about gesticulation, he replied that this monster communicated with him in any language that the man was thinking about, whether it was his native Polish or English or even one he just invented. It was as if the creature could read minds. The man himself didn't know how exactly he was able to understand what the alien was talking about. According to the alien, he arrived from Venus in peace. It turns out that these creatures are concerned about the health of our planet, as well as radiation from nuclear weapons, which emanates from Earth constantly. The creature reported that Earth is regularly visited by inhabitants of the planets of the solar system and even other galaxies. We just don't notice it. Later, the man, according to his own words, flew with this monster to another planet. He showed him his home and even let him control the spaceship. It's hard to believe in this, but the picture that Adamski took when encountered with the UFO still cannot be refuted. There's not a single piece of evidence that it was edited. So if the flying saucer is real, then the story's real too. Who is Pleiades? That was the first question that popped into my head as soon as I read the title of the article about a certain Billy Meyer who encountered it. If you delve into the topic a little better, it turns out that the man not only encountered some monsters, but also took a number of pictures, provided audio recordings, and proof in the form of material from which the alien ship made. Yeah, it sure makes you at least wonder about the credibility of the story, rather than accepting it as just another internet fake. The man was born in 1937 and began his claims of alien contact in the early 1970s. Meyer claims to have made contact with alien beings from different worlds in the Pleiades system, which is supposedly part of a federation of alien races known as the Pleiadian Group. He claims to have met aliens and received information from them about various aspects of life, space, and our planet. Billy has many materials, including images of spaceships, landscapes of alien worlds, and even the aliens themselves. However, many skeptics and researchers have accused Meyer of faking his photos and videos. However, his supporters believe that the man really met with alien beings and received unique knowledge from them. According to the hero of the story, these creatures even warned him about upcoming global events and made predictions about the future of humanity. It's up to you whether to believe an ordinary farmer who met an alien race one summer day or not. But before taking one side or the other, it's necessary to take two facts into account. Firstly, Billy's wife admitted in an interview after the divorce that her ex-husband falsified data. And secondly, Meyer's pictures passed a number of examinations, and none of them revealed falsification. It's likely that the wife just wanted to spite her ex-spouse.
Is that true? What do you think about that one? That almost looked like something. I don't know. But I don't know.
Incident near the school. Most alien encounters are characterized by a small number of witnesses, making it difficult to believe in the credibility of a story. Most, but not this one. On Wednesday, September 14th, 1994, it was a normal school day at Ariel School, which was near the town of Rua in Zimbabwe. During break, 62 students aged 5 to 12 years old ran out to play in the backyard of the school, when suddenly they saw the following picture. Several small disc-shaped objects descended from the sky at the same time. The ships ended up on Earth, and literally in a matter of seconds, unusual creatures came out of them. They made contact with the school children and communicated with them like this for 15 minutes. According to the eyewitnesses, at the moment the aliens appeared in front of them, everyone felt some kind of confidence in the safety. No one had the slightest thought of fleeing. It was probably supreme magic. The children returned to the classroom and didn't tell the teachers anything. The lessons continued, but the next day the whole town knew about it. The children told their parents about the incident and they panicked. Everything reached the top of society and the mass examination of the airspace that day. The Air Force was guarding the sky around the clock for the next few weeks, but no one was found. Why did people believe this? The thing is that the children interviewed in turn at different times of the day said the same thing, with only slight differences. Their drawings were also similar to each other. Given their age and abilities, it was simply unrealistic to agree and invent such a thing, which cannot help but suggest that these school children really had contact with aliens. The next equally interesting case occurred in December 1980 in Texas and was one of the most famous cases of alleged UFO effects on humans. There were 3 witnesses to this incident: Betty Cash, Vicki Landrum, and Vicki's 7-year-old grandson, Colby. All 3 claimed that they happened to be in the vicinity of a large, unidentified flying object that looked like a rock with flaming lights. It happened on a road that was completely empty that night. The UFO flew about 130 feet above the car, at which point all machinery simply shut down. After the encounter with the object, the witnesses reported some apparent effects. All of the witnesses developed symptoms of radiation poisoning when they arrived home, including nausea, baldness, and apathy. It was also mentioned that the encounter with the object caused eyesight problems and a painful condition on their skin. The Landrum and Cash family claimed that they had to get medical attention after the incident and even sued for damages. They claimed that the incident was caused by high levels of radiation and attributed it to an unidentified flying object. It was expected that the radiation was caused by a failed government experiment, but the government said it had nothing to do with the incident. Nevertheless, the people in the hospital were indeed sick. It was simply impossible to get that kind of damage in the open world, so they were definitely in contact with something. But it remains a mystery to this day what exactly it was and where it went.
I don't know. Moral of the story: you see something in the sky coming your way, turn around and run.
Next, we have another story in which people filmed a UFO, but were never able to figure out what exactly it was. This time, everything happened in the sky over Japan. Deep in the night in the airspace, 2 bright flying objects were seen. One of them clearly flew away from the second, and the latter chased it. The speed of the UFOs was cosmic, indicating that they couldn't have been human beings. Again, the data was repeatedly checked, and no traces of editing were found. It's the next location in which an unidentified flying object was filmed. This time, the person who managed to film it did not belong to history or to military forces. It was an ordinary citizen who was walking along the beach during his vacation. Nevertheless, according to many, the ordinary man managed to capture the clearest daytime footage of aliens in history. What's particularly interesting is that there were as many as 2 UFOs in the video, which are also different from each other. One is disc-shaped, while the other appears to be triangular. What would it take to start looking at human history differently? Alternatively, find some artifacts that contradict the accepted historical chronology. To me, these are the types of artifacts that make you think that history as we know it has been twisted. A skull that was found in Zambia, Africa. It looks quite normal except for one detail. See that little hole on the left? The scientists who examined the skull thought it was most likely a bullet hole. You'd think it'd be surprising. There are plenty of skulls like this around the world. Yes, but only this one is at least 125,000 years old, and according to all other data, all 300,000. As you can imagine, there were no guns or bullets in those days. Plus, the scientists conducted tests and said that they were not mistaken and did not talk nonsense. In their opinion, such a hole would leave only a bullet or other projectile with a high speed of flight and collision. Besides, a spear or arrow would have left cracks around the wound, whereas here you could see a clean entrance wound. So rifles and pistols were invented much earlier than we think? And what about rifles? The next finding suggests that people flew into a space a couple of thousand years earlier than Gagarin. These figures, found in Ecuador, strongly resemble people in astronaut spacesuits. That's all right, but they're estimated to be more than 2,000 years old. It seems unbelievable, but when you consider another discovery, you start to believe in ancient astronauts. I'm talking about these stone balls. They were made 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. What are they? Ancient grenades? Or just some kind of accessory? There's a theory that these stones are schematic representations of atomic nuclei. According to recognized history, they were discovered only in the 19th century, so the ancients were much more advanced than is generally believed. Although ancient is an exaggeration, another finding suggests that highly developed civilizations and incredible technologies appeared much earlier, hundreds of millions of years ago. On this idea, theorists were prompted by a vase, which was found in the middle of the 19th century. It would have been fine if it had been found simply buried in the ground, but it was ejected from the rock as a result of a controlled explosion. The rock is estimated to be 600 million years old. So this vase is either the work of a super ancient civilization or some incredible pranksters who managed to stick it in solid rock entirely. Or maybe it's the work of some creature we know nothing about. Like this one, the remnants of this archangel. Like creature were found during an excavation a couple of years ago. Scientists don't know what it is yet, but it could be one of the representatives of a highly advanced civilization that lived on the planet a long time ago. Maybe all these artifacts, like atomic rocks and vases, are their work. There is another option. Creatures that themselves do not fit into the generally accepted history are responsible for all the strange artifacts that can change history. I mean these creatures that have been depicted and immortalized in figurines. Ubaid figures, or Ubaid reptilians, that's what they're called. They were called so by the culture of Ubaid in Mesopotamia, where the artifacts were found. Although scientists have found quite a few of these, disputes around them are still ongoing. Some believe that they are the Ubaid themselves, and some believe that they are guests from outer space, lizard-like creatures that were on our planet several thousand years ago. Some theorists believe that it was from them that reptilians could have originated, living on the Earth to the present day and masquerading as humans. Another, more down-to-earth theory says that they're idols and deities of people of the Ubaid culture. You see, people worship them in tribute to them, decided to immortalize them in stone in this form. Nevertheless, experts on Middle Eastern cultures believe that the poses of the statuettes are markedly different from the usual ritualistic artifacts. So there's a chance that these are indeed images of beings from another planet. The fact that our planet was visited by visitors from the outside say other incredible artifacts, jade discs, for example. It all started when, in the late 1930s, explorers went on an expedition to the Bayan Kara Ula Mountains on the border with Tibet. They planned just to explore the caves, but they stumbled upon something more interesting: jade discs. Many of them depicted celestial luminaries, so they named the finds star discs. They're also known as Dropa stones or Zropa stones. In this regard, UFOologists have already tried. In their opinion, the discs could be created by the Dropa civilization, whose representatives, being aliens, landed 12,000 years ago in the region of Tibet. Needless to say, many scientists immediately considered this statement nonsense and a hoax. But how then to explain that more than 10,000 years ago, people were able to produce something like this? In addition, some discs produced a strange vibration. How long have you held stones that vibrate? I don't think I ever have. There is a feeling that in the mountains, they found an extraterrestrial civilization, which once lived on our planet and left behind artifacts ahead of time. Perhaps this, or another similar civilization, had a hand in the next artifact, although this time is more about an object in one of the temples in the Indian city of Mahabalipuram. This coastal temple was washed into the sea during the tsunami of 2004, but then it was successfully restored. However, today we're interested in something else. This 16-sided basalt pillar. It's believed to be the oldest lingam in India. It's about 1,500 years old. A lingam, if you ask me, is a halo-shaped symbol of divine power in Hinduism. Originally, it was 13 feet high. Now there's a 5-foot-tall stump. But it's enough to make you dumbfounded. The thing is made with machine precision, literally. Scientists have measured the pole and found that the angle between all the faces is 157.5 degrees. Once again, every facet matches up to a decimal fraction of a degree without error. And once again, the lingam is 1,500 years old. It's made of basalt, not any wood, and was originally 13 feet high. Such a thing can be made only with the help of sophisticated machinery, which, as we know, was not available in those times. With all due respect to the Hindus, no human being in the world is capable of such a thing. In general, the more you dig into finds from Asian countries, the more you realize that something is definitely wrong in our history. There's a crazy pillar with perfect edges, mysterious discs with planets, pyramids which surpass even those built in Egypt. Wait, we'll talk about those later. In the meantime, let's check out this saucer made of stone, which was found in Nepal. Unfortunately, only a few pictures have reached us, but that's enough. At first glance, we see an ordinary, albeit beautiful artifact, nothing more. Someone may think that it was created a couple hundred years ago, and initially it was approximately thought so. But scientists, archaeologists who found this saucer found out that it's more than 12,000 years old. It's not so astounding, it's even frightening. What's also frightening is that the Loladov saucer, as the artifact was named, depicts someone who looks suspiciously like an alien. It wasn't until the 20th century that aliens were depicted this way. Question for a million: how 12,000 years ago people were able to process the stone so clearly to draw on its spirals, the sun, and an alien in addition? Although it's not certain that humans did. There's an opinion that this plate may be related to the Dropa stones, which you already know about. First, the age coincides. Both this and those artifacts were made about 12,000 years ago. Second, Nepal neighbors Tibet. Maybe it's just one of the star discs that was stolen from that crypt in the mountains. There's another version, according to which the saucer depicts not an alien, but one of the locals of those times. According to some sources, they could consider themselves descendants of extraterrestrial beings, and therefore one of the locals depicted himself in such a form. But as for me, it raises only more questions. It turns out the saucer is proof of not just contact, but the kinship of people with extraterrestrials. Do you remember at the beginning of this issue I showed you a vase which was over 600 million years old? That finding could be written off as a mistake. Say one of the scientists simply screwed up the calculations. But don't blame the scientists. There are other similar artifacts whose age blows your mind. For example, a nail from Kinguti, which was found in Scotland in 1844. There are no photos of the original, but the find looked something like this. It was found in a block of sandstone removed from a quarry. The scientist, David Brewster, who investigated the nail from Kingoody, said that it looked like a typical nail, not some kind of formation in the stone. That'd be okay, but it was extracted from a 410-million-year-old rock. Brewster claimed it was a 100% man-made artifact, a nail with highlighted facets and a cap. Objects of this type were not used in the quarry, and the penetration of a modern object into the stone is absolutely impossible. In short, everything points to the fact that the nail was lost by some rascal from a super advanced civilization when he was building his house hundreds of millions of years ago. What else was there hundreds of millions of years ago? More specifically, who inhabited the planet back then? Well, dinosaurs, of course. The generally accepted story is that they went extinct about 66 to 65 million years ago and never crossed paths with humans. What if that's not true? In 1945, while excavating near the town of Acambaro in Mexico, amateur archaeologist Waldemar Julsrud discovered many unusual clay figurines that later formed his collection. In total, there were more than 33,000 figurines. There is not a single repetitive item in the collection, and many specimens are represented by dinosaur figurines. In general, nothing unusual. At that time, people already knew about dinosaurs and could make such figurines. But don't forget, they were dug out of the ground, not bought at the local souvenir shop. In addition, scientists analyzed the figurines and found that they were about 2,500 years old. At that moment, nobody knew about dinosaurs. Nevertheless, in the collection, both already known at the time species and unusual dinosaurs were found, similar to dragons, which have not been identified to the present day. Among the figurines, there were also those on which people were depicted together with dinosaurs. All this raises a lot of questions and assumptions. It turns out that the dinosaurs were extinct not so long ago, and dragons are not mythical creatures, but just one of the species of dinosaurs, and people successfully coexisted with these lizards and were able to domesticate and tame them. And after all, dinosaurs are only a part of Julsrud's collection. For example, some of the figurines depict something similar to alien flying saucers. Another confirmation of the existence of aliens? It's up to you to decide, but I think it's a worthwhile piece of evidence. We're moving on. The next mysterious find may again suggest that humans had contact with aliens in the past, but in this case it's not so clear-cut. I'm talking about this stone head that was found somewhere in the jungles of Guatemala in the 1940s. About 40 years later, a scientist named Oscar Padilla got a picture of the head and traveled to the area to look at the mysterious object in person. At that time, the head was already badly damaged, and currently there's nothing left of it at all. The scientists said that similar stone heads have been found in southern Mexico. It's believed that they were created by Olmecs in 1 to 2 millennia BC. This is true, but there is one inconsistency. The heads that made Olmecs have images of representatives of the Negroid race. As for the stone head in Guatemala, it resembles the image of a representative of the Caucasoid race. And this is strange. Theorists believe that this suggests that Guatemala had a separate culture that was different from all others in the neighborhood. Perhaps there was a hidden stone city here that was inhabited by the Caucasoids. But there's another theory, according to which the head was created by aliens, and the huge artifact itself is evidence of contact between aliens and ancient civilizations of America. As I promised, let's talk about the pyramids, which surpass even the legendary Egyptian pyramids. It would seem that this cannot happen, but it's true, at least in the case of the Chinese White Pyramid, located in Xi'an. Although outwardly it looks like a hill or a mountain, many theorists are sure it's a real hidden pyramid. Its height is about 984 feet, which makes it twice as high as the Pyramid of Cheops. It was first discovered by the American pilot James Gaussman at the end of World War II. According to him, during a flight to India, he saw a snow-white pyramid, which was difficult to compare with any other architectural structures on the planet. He also gave an estimate of the pyramid's height. After James's story, they started to investigate the pyramid and came to the conclusion that it's not a hill, but exactly an artificial construction, which in terms of accuracy and processing is not inferior to Egyptian pyramids. In what the White Pyramid concedes to the Egyptian analogs is its openness and availability. If the Egyptian pyramids are popular as tourist attractions, the White Pyramid is a secret and mystery. The Chinese government does not allow anyone to visit this pyramid, explaining that visitors may damage valuable artifacts. It's not clear, however, which exactly. Maybe people are not allowed in so that they don't learn the whole truth about the real history of China, which can affect world history. Besides, the White Pyramid is not the only one in China. Many other such structures have been found in the Celestial Empire, and especially in Xi'an. They prefer not to spread much about them. Who knows? Maybe the White Pyramid holds some secret archives bigger than that in the Vatican. There we can learn all the details about the real history of the planet and details about the most unusual artifacts like this one. You think it's just an ordinary sword that's not worth even a second of attention? It's not. At the very least, it's quite beautiful. The hilt alone is a work of art, but it's much more interesting than that. This sword, which was found in Poland, was dated to 400 BC. Alright, swords were already made then, but not like this. Analysis showed that the weapon was forged from an alloy of aluminum, copper, and magnesium, and the aluminum was 90% pure. What's so unusual about that? Well, for one thing, aluminum was first produced in 1825. The question arises, how did a blacksmith who lived 2,500 years ago get aluminum? Did he get it by some miracle? It's impossible because in nature, aluminum doesn't occur in its pure form. Then another version, the blacksmith was able to extract aluminum as it was done in the 19th century. But why in this case such a valuable production technology was lost? There is another hypothesis, according to which aluminum could have been brought to Earth by an alien space expedition. There are many versions of this mysterious sword, but none of them have yet been fully confirmed. Write in the comments, which discovery surprised you most of all? Leave a like and subscribe to the channel.
Okay. Well. What do you think? Are aliens real? That's the question now. Are aliens real? Alright guys, well we're back again, fam. I did ask this guy for permission to use his videos. He told me it was okay as long as I use his name in the comments, which I do right off the bat. Because I like his content, it's pretty good. Go subscribe to Infinity and beyond. Hi guys. Hey, thanks for being here. I enjoy making videos. I want to see y'all in the next one. Peace, love, and understanding.
Reactions Matter by David W. Searcy, Jr. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the video. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the content.